Speaking to me in Washington, Maxwell alleged that after documents were gathered and boxed for the Accountability Review Board, which first met October 4th, 2012, there was an unusual weekend session in the basement at State Department headquarters in Washington. Maxwell says, quote, "I was not invited to that after-hours endeavor, but I heard about it and decided to check it out on a Sunday afternoon." When he arrived, he says an office director told him, "Ray, we are to go through these stacks and pull out anything that might put anybody in the front office or seventh floor in a bad light." Seventh floor was shorthand for Secretary Clinton and her top staff.
All right, folks, this is a story that we talked about a few days ago, was broken by Sharyl Attkisson, and she joins us, Emmy Award-winning journalist, former CBS News correspondent, author of a great book, My Fight for the Truth Against the Forces of Obstruction, Intimidation, and Harassment in Obama's Washington. Welcome back, Sharyl.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's always my pleasure. Okay, so this story, I mean, this is huge for anybody who wants to look at what it is talking about. How did you happen upon Mr. Maxwell?
Maxwell was referred to me some time ago by other State Department sources who felt he was a very credible figure and had information to offer. I first reached out to him perhaps a year and a half ago. He didn't want to talk to me at first. I don't blame him. You know, a lot of people really don't want to be out front and don't much want to talk to reporters. But over time, I was able to chat with him about a lot of different matters. He proved to be a very reliable source of information about things. He's very well respected and well regarded in the State Department, a deputy assistant secretary. And he told this story about happening upon this document operation that he felt, or actually was told, he says, was to separate out damaging documents prior to them being turned over to the Accountability Review Board.
Did he mention to you who was involved in this specifically? Did he name names? Was there top Hillary staff members involved?
Yes, he, according to him, he gave me a lot of names, or several names, but the ones people may recognize, if any, are, while he was there, he says, the Chief of Staff for Secretary of State Clinton, Cheryl Mills, came in with Jake Sullivan, who is the Deputy Chief of Staff for Secretary Clinton. And according to him, they appeared to check in on the operation. They spoke to him briefly, acknowledged him. He says Cheryl Mills asked Jake Sullivan, "Who's that?" referring to him, kind of, what's he doing here? And Jake said, "Oh, that's Ray Maxwell, a Deputy Assistant Secretary." And she said, "Okay." He says he had met Cheryl Mills before, but she clearly just didn't remember his face. And he says he knew Jake fairly well. Jake, they knew each other by face and name.
Do you know of any plans? Of course, the Benghazi Select Committee hearings underway today, and we'll get to that in a second. But do you know if Mr. Maxwell is going to testify? Are there plans along those lines? And do you have any indication as to whether or not they will call Cheryl Mills and possibly the Deputy Chief of Staff to corroborate or dispute Mr. Maxwell's story?
They have had Ray Maxwell's testimony about this operation for quite some time. When he first told members of Congress about it last year, he did not want to be out front. He didn't want his name put out. He really didn't want to testify about it. And who can blame him? Whistleblowers, pretty much their lives and careers are ruined when they step forward with things like this. But they had that information to go on, and they said, when I asked to confirm had he told them this, I spoke to Congressman Chaffetz, who was one of the members who'd heard this, had been privy to this conversation that had been held with Ray Maxwell, and they said they have been looking into it. So I don't know what work they've done in the past year or so, but they have indicated this will be part of the committee's work. What form it will take, I don't know. Separate and aside from this, I think they already planned to interview Cheryl Mills, so I think that will take place. Some of their interviews they plan to do as transcribed interviews, not public hearings, and then some of them they intend to do as public hearings. I don't know the details of what they plan with that.
Right. So you don't know. So if they do bring this up to Mills, they could quote from testimony given already by Maxwell behind closed doors, so to speak, as opposed to first bringing Maxwell out to publicly state this. Am I accurate?
That's right. I've been told that the committee, in some respects, may prefer to do a lot of interviews behind closed doors. It doesn't mean they'll be secret. The Democrats and Republicans would both be there. But when they have the public hearings, there are these rules that they typically abide by, in which you may have seen them and been frustrated by them equally. 5 minutes on one side, 5 minutes the other side, ask a question. And they never can get anywhere because they're, these fragmented discussions. You listen to one member pontificate, and then the other member from the other side speaks up and tries to knock it down, and nobody picks up where they left off. Right. It's a horrible way to try to get information. So I'm told that Gowdy, who's a prosecutor and head of the committee, would much prefer to spend a couple of hours with somebody where they don't have those restrictions, rather than hold a dog and pony show and have 5 minutes going back and forth.
Although one would think that it would benefit, those who want to get to the bottom of it, and those who want to combat the claim that it's a witch hunt and there's nothing here. Again, I'll talk about optics, because that's all the media talks about when it benefits them, is optics, with their bad optics, good optics. How about the optics of an African-American man saying that, he witnessed what he told you he witnessed, and Cheryl Mills was there and even said, who's he? And I mean, they could try to dispute it all they want on the other side, but if he says it, he says it. So I think that would be blockbuster testimony that would make it hard for even the mainstream media to ignore.
Maybe hard to ignore, but it will be spun. I mean, there is a well-concerted, orchestrated finance campaign, and it's already underway.
To discredit him?
Yeah, of course, to controversialize him, me, the story, whatever. And it's somewhat successful, but I always say it's successful to those who weren't open-minded anyway. I mean, people have already, you have, I guess, three camps. You have people that have already judged Hillary Clinton and those types, and they will never believe anything good. You have people that think she's bad and will never, on the other side, basically, that can't be convinced. And you
right, but Sharyl, I'm curious, and not to interrupt, I'm sorry. Are they, what specifically have they said, if you've heard any of it, in an effort to discredit Maxwell and you with regard to this story?
Well, one person tweeted out that she heard someone else, or was told by someone else in the media, that he had no credibility because of his poetry. He's a poet, and he published, when he was on administrative leave, some very insightful allegories that are in my story on dailysignal.com. That's kind of how he first came to my attention about what was happening at the State Department, referring to lies and deceit that were going on. And someone in the media, if the media wants to cover a story, they will use that. They will find somebody, and they think, he's a terrific subject for many reasons. If they don't want to, they'll use the same information to say that makes him a bad.
Right, they'll trash the messenger. So someone in the media tweeted out trying to discredit him because of his poetry?
No, somebody, and I can't even recall who it is, but I'm on a lot of Twitter lists, and somebody said that she had been told that by someone in the media when I guess she was asking why wasn't the media covering this.
Okay, and I'm just curious. And this person who was asking, was it someone significant, or just a view?
I think it was a conservative blogger type.
Okay. So she was asking media people why not cover it, and they're saying, well, he
must have had a conversation, and somebody said, "Oh, look at the poems he wrote." And I always say there's a fairly, I think, newish trend that I experienced when I was at CBS. It's fine to have other people say he's not credible because of his poetry. So you cover the story and you let Ray have his say, and then you let his opponent say he's not credible. But what the media does now is they black out a story. They censor a story. They don't even want it covered. That's where I think it seems so sinister to me in America that the media chooses to basically blackball a story that they don't want out there.
Sure.
And I think they do it, quite frankly, lest the public come to the wrong opinion. They don't trust the public to come to what they think is the right opinion about something, and I don't think we should be in the business of filtering facts and information because we don't like what the public may do with it.
And what about you? You said trash him and you. What, has there been a specific attempt on this story to trash you?
Well, I try not to read all those, but there are blogs. The Media Matters is a Hillary Clinton left-wing Obama administration blog, and they have other branches. Talking Points Memo writes directly from them, and they've just been on a long-term campaign about me. But someone sent me a headline. I think they called me a hoaxer. I don't know what the hoax is supposed to be, but they also have put out there, I think even before, they've said several times that my Benghazi reporting had to be retracted from CBS. Never happened. Never had a word retracted. It was well awarded and recognized. And I believe someone told me, they said that I had been fired from CBS over my Benghazi reporting. That I was not fired from CBS. That never happened. So they'll just print false accusations. They're very slanderous and false, but quite frankly, I don't have an interest in tracking them all down and reading them and hiring lawyers.
Sure. No, I was curious because you brought it up. I was just curious how they're going about this. Sharyl, keep up the great work. Always a pleasure to talk to you, and I look forward to talking to you very, very soon.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Sharyl Attkisson, ladies and gentlemen, very, very important journalist in these times in which we live, and she's not stopped. She hasn't been stopped. The book, My Fight for Truth Against the Forces of Obstruction, Intimidation, and Harassment in Obama's Washington. We're coming back with Gimme 5.